Interest rates are going up as the Federal Reserve works to slow the rising rate of inflation, and that means you'll be paying more to borrow money. And North Central College's Dr. Ryan Decker is joining us with what else we need to know. Dr. Decker, good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so here's how it goes. The GDP shrank again for the second quarter in a row. Isn't that the technical definition of a recession? If so, are we in one?
It's usually what people refer to when they think about a recession, but that's not included. So we also look at consumer spending and the labor market. Now, the labor market is still really strong. The Fed Chairman Jerome Powell indicated that that's really the main factor that's keeping us out of an official recession. But then again, we don't know that we're in a recession until after it's happened. The NBER, which classifies recessions, doesn't do so until months after we actually exit a recession. But right now, consumer spending is still up due to the strong labor market.
Well, that is kind of an interesting state of affairs here. To have the job market so strong, what is the usual relationship here? Because it doesn't seem to be, the way it usually goes.
Yeah, it's not. And it's really due to the type of environment that we have with us right now, especially when it comes to inflation. Now, there's really two ways that you can combat inflation. One is by trying to decrease demand for products, which is what the Fed is trying to do with higher interest rates. The flip side is the supply side. And we have such strong supply chain issues still going on due to COVID worldwide that's causing issues. So this inflation is not always necessarily linked to a recession. The declining GDP is concerning, but when you look at how much GDP is declining, it's very small. So it's less than 1% decline year over year, which is still not great, but it's not the large mass decreases in GDP that we typically see when a recession hits.
Right. Well, Congress worked out a deal, and most analysts say the Inflation Reduction Act will do modest things, if at all. What is your view about that and the role of government in this?
Yeah, modest might be too strong a word if you're talking about present day inflation. What they're talking about doing won't actually impact us too much for years to come. With prescription drug negotiations, with Medicare, hopefully that'll reduce the cost of Medicare prescription drugs moving forward. And climate change solutions, allocating dollars there. We'll see what happens over the next 5-10 years, but this plan really does not impact present day inflation.
So it sounds like nothing is going to happen quickly here. Given that, what would be your advice to the average American? What should we be doing or not be doing because of where things stand right now?
Yeah, we're still in such an unpredictable environment right now that you really need to continue saving. So now is not the time to be throwing away your pennies. So ensure that you have an adequate savings account and emergency fund. Now, the best time to save for an emergency is when you're not in one. So if you do still have your job and you're able to afford your basic necessities, try to beef up that savings account just in case inflation does continue and we still see supply chain issues moving forward.
Save money, got that. What about debt that you'd be carrying right now?
Yeah, assuming that you have an adequate savings account, it's never a bad idea to pay down debt. However, with the rising interest rates, if you think that you might need to go into debt for a new car or a house or to refinance your student loans or what have you, you're going to be paying a higher price. So hopefully we can avoid going into more debt because we're going to be paying higher interest rates.
You already hinted at this, but do you see this as a cyclical thing? And if so, what does history tell you about how long this could last?
Yeah, it really depends on the supply chain issues. The Fed is determined to crush demand in certain sectors with these high interest rates, housing being one of them. And the Fed's going to do all they can to control that. But the Fed does not control what happens outside of our borders, especially with supply chain issues. So until we get the supply chain issues resolved, we're still going to be seeing high prices and shortages of products for the next few months. So it doesn't look like we have an end in sight, but hopefully we have some positive momentum moving forward.
That old supply chain. Dr. Ryan Decker, an economist at North Central College. Good to catch up with you again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again.
Okay.